All right, 6-4, we are going to be graphing sine and cosine. Please follow along because it's very simple to just make a little mistake, but you have to know the difference between graphed sine and graphed cosine. So looking at this, what we have here is a cycle. Okay, this diagram is one cycle. This is one cycle of sine. If you're looking at the difference between the top and the bottom image, the bottom image has multiple cycles. Okay, so if you're looking at it, this right here is one cycle. This is another cycle. This is another cycle as well. Within the cycles, they are the same. Okay, pattern-wise, it is a pattern continuing. So when I'm looking at the graph of sine, think of it as a sideways S. Okay, something like that. That's what my graph of sine looks like when I'm graphing it. Okay, so think of S for sine. It looks like a sideways S. Do not get it mixed up with cosine. Okay. Another thing is this is called a periodic function because, like I said, it continues. Okay. So looking at my graph of cosine, it doesn't start at the center. If you're looking at it again, I have my periods or my cycles. This is one cycle right here. And if I continue, this will be another cycle. And these do not look like a sideways S, it looks like a V. Okay, so you could think about it as a V, or you could think about it as like a sideways C, but it looks something like this. Okay. I understand sine and cosine look very similar. It's just shifted a little bit. So when you're looking at it, you have to remember the difference between how you're graphing sine and cosine. Please do not get them mixed up. Okay, so I'm just going to draw them really quick. You have cosine, which we have is like that V. This is my cosine. Okay, cosine. And then sine starts at the center and is kind of more like a S. This is my sine. Okay, so cosine again starts at the top. I'll write that down. Starts at the top. And sine starts in the middle. Okay, something to remember when you're graphing, and again with practice, you guys will see the difference. All right, now you guys will be graphing, so you have to determine pieces of information for your graph. So we have amplitude and period. Okay, format that your function is normally given to you in is right here. So you have two key points. You have A, which will help you find your amplitude. Okay, so here is my amplitude. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight it. You're taking the absolute value of your A. Now, what does amplitude tell me? Okay, what do I use for amplitude? What's given? How do I use it? So, amplitude determines how high, or how low. Well, not or, it's and. How low the graph goes. How high or how low the graph is. Okay, so looking at this diagram at the bottom, this is considered my amplitude right here. Okay, this is how high it's going to go. This is how low it's going to go. That's my amplitude. So you're taking the absolute value of that A. Now, period. Period helps me determine the spaces, if you want to think about them as the spaces in between. So these points right here would be my periods. Again, it's just going to it's the horizontal distance from one complete cycle. So this is my entire period. And blue if you can look at it. Okay, but you'll kind of see what you're using the period for. We're kind of using it for the key points when we get there. So looking at it, this is how I'm solving for my period. And you're taking that number that's in front of x. Now, if there is no number in front of x, okay, you're going to use 1. So if I just had cosine x, my period, I'm going to plug it in for my b, it's going to be 1. So whenever you're solving that, you have to remember 2 pi over b, and your b is always that number in front of x. If there is no number, it's just 1. So that's something that you have to remember. Okay, just to write another thing on here for a, it's the number or whatever's in front of sine and cosine. Number in front of sine or cosine. All right, these are the steps. I understand it may look confusing, but once we get to the examples, it'll make a lot more sense. So looking at my steps, they first want you to identify the amplitude and the period. And this is the part that we're going to show you on the graphs. Key thing here is they want you to find your key points. So when I'm trying to find my key points, I have to use specific information. So finding my key points, I'm going to use 1/4, 1/2, 1/3, 0, and 1. Okay, it's going in quarters. So those are the points I'm going to write on my x-axis once I'm done solving. So key points are super important. And when you find your key points, you have to multiply by the period. Okay, and I understand it's like, what the heck is going on? I'm going to show you that in the example. So normally when I'm writing them, what it's going to look like is I'm going to have my key points, and I'm going to write it out as 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. Okay, so I normally write it out like that because then I'm going to, key thing here is multiply by the period. Then I'm going to plot my points. Then I'm just going to go ahead and graph. All right, looking at the next slide, let's go ahead and do these examples. So what do we have? We have to find specific information. Our format is A, because this is sine, I'm going to write it there, B and X. So they're giving me everything, and I'm just going to go ahead and solve. So looking at it, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and find my amplitude. Amplitude is, you have to remember, it's the absolute value of your A. And what is my A here? It's 4. And the absolute value of 4 is 4. So just highlighting it, I'm taking that A, and it's 4. So this is my amplitude. Remember, amplitude tells you how high and how low it goes. Okay, so you're going to see that as I graph it. Now looking at the next part, I'm going to go ahead and find my period. And finding my period, it's going to be 2 pi over b. Looking at this, what is my b here? 2. So I'm going to have 2 pi over 2. Okay, simplifying this, what's 2 pi over 2? I'm just going to get pi, and that's my period. Now, keep in mind, next step is key points. I'm going to take those key points, and I'm going to multiply it by the period. So writing out the key points, okay, I'm going to have 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. I'm taking the key points, which I wrote, and I'm multiplying by the period. So in this case, my period is pi, and I'm multiplying everything by pi. Do not think this is hard. This is probably the easy part. Multiply across. 0 times pi is going to give me 0. 1/4 times pi is pi over 4. 1/2 times pi is pi over 2. 3/4 times pi is 3 pi over 4. And then 1 times pi is pi. Now when you guys are graphing, you have to graph 2 cycles. So these are the points for 1 cycle. How do I find the points for 2 cycles? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and all you're gonna do for a second cycle is make them negative. So for my second cycle, and you're gonna see it as I graph, it's gonna be negative pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 4, and negative pi. So now I have a total of 2 cycles, and I'm gonna graph them. Leave yourself some space because this is important part right here. So, graphing it. Please pay attention to the graphs. I'm going to use the information that I have. All right, here's my graph. Okay, I know mine's going to go off a little bit. That's fine if just make yours a little bit smaller. This is what your graph is going to look like, okay? Amplitude. Again, amplitude told me how high and how low it's going to go. So because it's 4, the highest it can go is 4. And the lowest it's going to go is negative 4. Okay, so right there, this is what it should look like. Now, my key points are the points I'm plotting on my x-axis. So here is a key point, which is going to be pi over 4. Here's another key point, which is pi over 2. I'm then going to have 3 pi over 4. And pi. I know it's kind of small on your notes. Just go ahead and try and do the best as you can. And then I'm going to go ahead and make them negative. Negative pi over 4. Negative pi over 2. Negative 3 pi over 4. And negative pi. Okay, so this is what your graph should look like so far. Now, what do I do next? I need to determine, were they asking for sine and cosine? And in this case, they're asking for sine. I remember, what does the graph of sine look like? Sine looks like that S. Okay, this is what sine looks like. Keep in mind it's starting at the center. So I am graphing now. I'm going to start at the center and plot that point at 0, 0. Let me go ahead and zoom in for you. Now I'm going to go up. Keep in mind I'm going up all the way to 4. Going to the first key point, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going back to the middle, then bringing it down. Remember, it's going to look like an S. So if I were to graph this, let me go ahead and graph it for you so you can see. It's going to look something like this graphed. Now this is one cycle. I have to go ahead and do my second cycle with my negative. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to go down to negative 4. Back to the middle, back up to 4, and back to the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and graph this one as well. Keep in mind they are curves, so try and curve them as best as you can, and this is what your graph should look like. Okay, so these are all the steps you have to do in order to graph the function. When you are graphing, do not forget you have to go all the way up and all the way down. Do not stop until you go all the way up and down. It should not look something like this. There shouldn't be any curves here. It should go all the way up and then curve. All right, looking at example number 2, now we have cosine. Okay, we did sine. For the first example, let's go ahead and do cosine and see what this looks like. So again, a couple things I have to find. If it helps you to write it out, let me make that a little smaller. This is cosine B times X. That's the format that I have, and let's go ahead and find that information. Amplitude, period, and key points. All right, looking at this one. First, finding our amplitude. Okay, amplitude is taking the absolute value of my A, and what's my A here? Negative 2. Absolute value of negative 2, and what is that? It's a positive 2. Okay. Now, when I'm looking at this question, this is something else that you have to know. When you have a negative here, okay, that little negative right there, that's telling me that I'm going to have a reflection. It's going to be reflected. Okay, let me try and get an orange is what I'm trying to get right there. That negative sign is telling me that it's going to be a reflection. Ooh, I can't spell. reflect. Okay, and you're gonna see that as I'm graphing it. That's gonna be on the graph. I'm still taking the absolute value of my A, which yes is -2, or you could just say it's 2, because it's the absolute value, it's gonna be positive, and that's still gonna be my amplitude. But again, that negative sign in front is gonna tell me it's a reflection, and you're gonna see that when I'm graphing it. Now let's go ahead and find the period. Again, leave yourself some space for the key points. So period is going to be 2 pi over b. Looking at this question, what is my b here? Okay, remember it's the number in front of x. So it's just 1. So I'm going to end up just with 2 pi. Okay, my period is 2 pi. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my key points. You have to remember what those points are. Okay, so key points, I have 0, 1/4. Remember, we're going in quarters, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. Now, what am I going to do with those key points? I am multiplying it by my period, which in this case is 2 pi. So times 2 pi for all of these. And I know you're multiplying a fraction and a whole number with pi, but it shouldn't be too difficult. So again, multiply times your period. Just writing it on there for you so you remember. Okay, 0 times 2 pi is just 0. 1/4 times 2 pi is 2 pi over 4, which can be simplified to pi over 2. Okay, 2 pi over 2 can be simplified to pi. 3 times 2 pi over 4, I'm going to get 6 pi over 4, which simplifies to 3 pi over 2. And then 2 pi times 1 is just 2 pi. Okay, so please make sure you simplify them. It's not hard. This is, I want to say, probably the most difficult part, but really it's not, because you're just multiplying basic numbers. You're not going to get outrageously large numbers. You guys have to leave pi there. Okay, you're not solving pi, you're leaving it there. Now the next step. This is one cycle. If it helps and you want to highlight what you have, these are one cycle. Now I have to get 2 cycles. All I'm going to do is change the signs and make them negative. Again, I have to have 2 cycles. So now I'm going to have negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, and negative 2 pi. Okay, now I have all my information I need to graph. And let's go ahead and draw our chart and then graph it on there. So here it is. That's kind of my center-ish. My amplitude is my highest it can go is 2. And my lowest it can go is -2. Putting my key points on there. I'm going to have pi over 2. Pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Then going ahead and doing my negative ones. Negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, and then negative 2 pi. Okay, so all I did was label. I haven't done anything else. I'm just kind of copying down what I have. Now I have to go ahead and do cosine. So cosine, I said, looked like a V, meaning I'm starting at the top. However, because it is a reflection, I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite. So that means it's going to look something like this now. That means I'm going to go ahead and I'm starting from the bottom, right here. I'm then going to go to the middle, then go all the way to the top, middle again, back to the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Remember, it should look like the same pattern once I plot my points. So I'm going to go here. Remember, it's a curve. Make sure you guys are curving them. And if I'm looking at it, I'm going to have 2 cycles. So looking at those 2 cycles, I have 1 cycle here and another cycle here. And that is my cosine. And again, it's a reflection because of that negative. Okay, so don't forget that. That is a reflection because of that negative, so I graphed it as a reflection. All right, first thing I'm going to go ahead and find is my amplitude. So looking at my amplitude, what is my A here? It's the absolute value of -1/2, which ends up making my amplitude 1/2. And because I have that negative there, I know I'm going to have a reflection. So my graph is going to be reflected. Next, I'm going to go ahead and find the period. And looking at my period, it's going to be 2 pi over b. And in this case, the number in front of the x is 1. So it's just 2 pi. 2 pi over 1 is 2 pi. Going ahead and finding those key points, writing them out. Key points, write the quarters, and then don't forget to multiply by the period. Okay, so just writing that on there so you have it, multiply by the period. So what do I have for my key points? I have 0, I have 1/4, I have 1/2, I have 3/4, and 1. And then multiplying by the period, which is 2 pi, times 2 pi, times 2 pi, times 2 pi, times 2 pi. Guys, with practice, these should get a lot easier. I'm going to have 0. I'm going to get 2 pi over 4, which could simplify. Okay, I'll write it out there for you. To pi over 4. And then I'm going to get 2 pi over 2, which just simplifies to pi. I'm going to get 6 pi over 4, which simplifies to 3 pi over 2. And then this is just going to be 2 pi. Now again, this is 1 cycle. I have to have 2. All I'm going to do is take the negative of what I have. Okay, so going ahead and graphing this, I have sine. Okay, just writing it on there. And I know sine starts in the center and looks like an S, but now it's a reflection. So instead of going up, I'm going to go down. Okay, this is what the reflection is going to look like. So going ahead and graphing this, keep in mind no shifts here. My amplitude is 1/2. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. -1/2. And then writing my periods. I have pi over 4, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Now doing the negative values, I'm going to have negative pi over 4, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, and negative 2 pi. I'm just going to go ahead and extend this out a little more. Now graphing it, yes, I'm still starting at the center, but instead of going up, I'm going to go ahead and go down, back to the center, back up, and then back to my center. So it should look something like this, graphing it. Okay, same thing here, up, center, down, center. And it should look something like this if it's graphed correctly. All right, really quick for this one, my mistake, it should actually be pi over 2, not 4. So let me just go ahead and change that. This is pi, come on. Pi over, oops, let me change that to 2. It should be pi over 2, not 4. Looking at vertical shifts, it's the same thing we just did. All you're doing is either moving the graph up or down depending on the amount of units you get. So if you're looking at this, okay, this is a slide you should be on. If it's whatever you have plus a number, you're moving the graph up. Graph moves up. Now if I'm subtracting something, what do you think is going to happen? My graph's going to go down. Now, how do I solve vertical shifts? How do I graph a vertical shift? Okay, these are the steps. You are still going to do the same thing we just did in the previous examples. So go ahead and graph your original as normal, okay? Ignore the +2 or ignore the shift that they're giving you. Okay, graph the original and then you're gonna shift or move up or down depending on the units. So however many units they're asking you for is going to tell you how many times you're shifting it up or down. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the examples for you to see it. Again, you're going to go ahead and graph like normal. So just go ahead and ignore that +1 for now. We're just going to go ahead and do what they gave us and just graph it like we did the previous examples. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and find is looking at this. Let's go ahead and find that amplitude. And looking at my amplitude, it's going to be the absolute value of A. And looking at it, what is my A here? My A would be 1. So the absolute value of 1 is just 1 as a whole. Okay, it's just 1. Okay, remember it is A. In this case, it's sine B times X. So my A is 1. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and find my period. And period is 2 pi over B. And what's my B here? 2 pi over 4. Simplifying 2 pi over 4, I'm going to end up with pi over 2. Okay, so that is my period. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my key points. Keep in mind, once I do that, I have to multiply by the period. And looking at it, my key points, we're going to have 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. Going ahead and multiplying that times my period, which is pi over 2. And I'm doing that for all of them. All right, solving them, anything times 0 is 0. I'm going to end up with pi over 4 times 2, which is 8. I'm going to get pi over 4. I'm going to get 3 pi over 8. And then I'm just going to get pi over 2. Okay, so this is what I should have for my key points. Keep in mind, this is just one cycle. I have to go ahead and find another cycle, and you could write it again, or because you have them, you know they're also going to be negative. So because I know they're negative, I'm not going to go ahead and write them again because I know I have to have 2 cycles. So going ahead and graphing it just to save me some space, try and make that graph a little bit more at the bottom because we're shifting up 1 unit. So going ahead and graphing this. Make this a little longer because I know I'm going to be shifting up 1 unit. So making those points, I'm going to have right here, and right here is my amplitude, which is +1 and a -1. Writing in those key points, I'm going to have pi over 8. I'm going to get pi over 4. I'm going to get 3 pi over 8 and pi over 2. Okay, same thing over here. Negative pi over 8, negative pi over 4, negative 3 pi over 8, and negative pi over 2. Okay, graphing, I know I'm going to go ahead and I have sine. So my graph of sine is going to look like that S. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and graph this in black for now because I did not do my shift yet. Remember, graph the original first, then shift. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the center. I'm going to go up, back to the middle, back down, back to the middle. So it's going to right now look something like this. Keep in mind, this is not my answer because I did not shift it yet. Okay, again, doing the other side, it's going to look something like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my shift. What is the shift? What did they say it's shifting? It is shifting -1. I'm sorry, not -1, +1. That means I'm moving everything up 1 unit. So instead of it going up 1 unit, that means I'm going to go here and it's going to go to 2. So shifting this up 1. Instead of it being at 0, it's going to be at 1. Instead of it being at 1, I'm going to go to 2. I'm just shifting everything 1 unit up. 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 And the last one, 1 unit up. Now I'm going to go ahead and follow those shifts. Okay, so my orange graph is going to be my answer. All you had to do was take those same points and move it up 1 unit. So instead of going to 0, it's going to 1 and so forth. Okay, that is shifting. All right, looking at example number 5, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. However, looking at this, I know this looks weird, but we can still solve it, okay? If you want to rewrite it, this is the same thing as writing pi over 4 times x, if it helps you, okay? Pi over 4 times x. Now, let's go ahead and first solve for our amplitude. Okay, our amplitude is what? What is our amplitude here? It's the A. What is my A? What is that number in front of sine? It's just 1. My amplitude is 1. So similar to the last one. Now let's go ahead and find the period. Okay, looking at my period, I'm going to have 2 pi over b. And what is my b here? I have 2 pi over 4. Okay, I know this looks weird, but it's the same thing as saying 2 pi times 4 over pi. Okay, so I can go ahead and change that to 4 over pi. So changing it to 4 over pi and solving that. All right, solving this, if you want to rewrite it, it could be written as 2 pi over 1 times 4 over pi. My pi's are going to cancel out, and then I'm going to just end up with 4 times 2, which gives me 8. Okay, so in this case, my period is going to be 8. Okay, you have to know how to solve these. Technically, it's 2 pi divided by pi over 4. If you're dividing fractions, it's keep, change your sign to multiplication, and flip it, which is what I did. I then cross simplified and had 2 times 4 by itself. Okay, I forgot my O in period. Right there. All right, now the next thing I have to do is find those key points. So once I find those key points, keep in mind with the key points, you're going to multiply by your period. So key points. So key points, I'm going to have 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. Multiplying everything times my period, which was 8. You could put it as 8/1 if you want. Okay, because they have a fraction. So let's just keep it as fractions. But you should know how to multiply a fraction times a whole. Okay. Now going ahead and solving that, I'm going to have 0. 8/4, which gives me 2. 8/2 gives me 4. 3 times 8 divided by 4, I'm going to end up with 6. And then this would give me 8 by itself. Okay, so this is what I have. Keep in mind it goes by quarters. And again, that's one cycle. Our second cycle is also going to be negative. So all you have to do is add that negative sign. We don't have to write that because we should know that. But let's go ahead and graph. Now, this one is a shift down 1 unit. Okay, but I'm just going to go ahead and graph the original first, and then I'm going to shift it. So drawing that graph, I'm going to kind of move it up a little bit. And this, I'm just going to go straight down. Okay, so graphing it. I know my amplitude we started with is going to be 1. So I have a positive 1 and a negative 1. Graphing those key points, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, and then I have -2, -4, -6, and -8. Okay, doing my original, it's sine, so I know I'm starting at the center. Okay, remember, I'm just gonna write it here. Sine is your S. So starting at the center, I'm gonna go up, back to the middle, down, back to the middle. So right now it should look something like this. Okay, same thing with this side. To the middle, up, to the middle. Kind of graph that one a little off, but something like that. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and do my shift. My shift is down 1 unit. So instead of it going to -1, I'm gonna go ahead and move everything down 1 unit, which my lowest point is now gonna be at -2. So moving it down 1, moving it down 1. I know it's a little off, that's my mistake. Down 1, down 1, down 1, down 1. Just continue moving them all down 1. And it should look something like this after I'm done graphing. Okay, so make sure you shifted everything correctly. And what's highlighted in yellow, what's in orange would be my final answer.